California, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. It's impossible to imagine today's United States without these regions. Hollywood, Las Vegas, Silicon Valley, all of America's current power resides in these areas. But 200 years ago, was this vast territory not part of present-day America? The whole story is, in fact, a history. So how did these regions become part of America? Whose ownership was over these areas before America? Which countries did they belong to? We will try to learn all of it from the beginning in today's episode. You surely know that empires have risen on earth and new countries and places have been conquered. Reviewing the history of human civilization reveals that conquered nations often have no history, because history is written by the victors. The territories that are currently part of the United States were not originally so. Most of the country's southwest was under Mexico. The United States integrated these regions into its borders through various strategies, money, and war. These regions are so rich in natural resources that their role in America's rise as today's superpower can never be denied. In the 19th century, Mexico was the owner of these regions. It had been under Spanish rule for nearly 300 years. Mexico gained independence in 1821 after a struggle against Spain. About 500,000 Mexicans died in the War of Independence. Subsequently, instability emerged within the country. A rough and unstable period began in Mexico after independence. In contrast, on the eastern edge of North America, stable government policies led to the continuous expansion of the United States. Consequently, within 30 years of gaining independence, Mexico experienced 50 changes in government. In such a fragmented and unstable situation, and in the flow of forceful investments, Spain attempted to recolonize Mexico, although they failed in this attempt. Then Portugal and France again attacked Mexico with the intention of establishing colonies. But ultimately, the United States intervened this time. The Europeans, who had essentially granted independence to the nations of the Americas broadly, could not accept that Mexico would be recolonized. In 1823, US President James Monroe declared the Monroe Doctrine, stating that the entire Western Hemisphere would be under the US sphere of influence and no European power could establish new colonies in the American territories. Thus, the United States, whose governing power wasn't that strong at the time, was in the hands of European descendant Americans, and it was difficult for Washington to restrain its greed for territorial expansion. However, in this context, the situation was created for the state of Texas to join the United States in 1845, which later led to war. He now adopted a clear pretext and excuse where the main point was America's imperialist attitude. By 1845, the situation reached a point where an official envoy was sent to the Mexican government. The purpose was to negotiate with Mexico. President Polk's first attempt failed, but Polk did not give up. He then adopted another strategy. Soon after gaining independence in the 1820s, Mexico's new government fell into debt. To develop the country, its economic foundation needed to be strengthened. Therefore, the government invited Americans, encouraging them to settle in the sparsely populated areas along the US-Mexico border. American citizens began to go, and they paid taxes to the Mexican government. The main reason was that the Mexican government wanted to abolish slavery. They did not want Mexico, where slavery was prohibited, to become like America. This demand, however, was not at all consistent with the reality of the time. Finally, in 1836, American citizens living in Texas established a new country called the Republic of Texas. Their own government system and laws were enacted there. The backdrop to this becomes even more interesting. Then the independent Republic of Texas expressed a desire to join the United States. Mexico realized that this region was increasingly slipping out of their control, and in response, Mexico stated that allowing Texas to join America would be tantamount to declaring war on Mexico directly, and Mexico warned America that it would take reasonable war measures. Cunning President Polk actually wanted this victory. Later, an accident was used by the Americans in Texas. They made a joint effort to have the state join America, but a problem arose with the northern states of America. Most of those states were not in favor of incorporating Texas into the United States in 1845 because they feared Texas would support slavery, consequently creating an imbalance between the northern and southern states within the Union. War then became inevitable. On the Texas border, in an area controlled by America, President Polk ordered troops to be sent. The continuous buildup of American troops on the Mexican border made it seem that America wanted war. Polk's objective was fulfilled as soon as Mexico took action. According to the Monroe Doctrine, aggression by other countries was prohibited, but waging war to protect one's own citizens within the country was not forbidden. President Polk declared that American citizens had been killed on the Mexico-America border, and the necessary battlefield would now be prepared for that. Congress approved Polk's expedition, that is, war against Mexico. The Mexican government knew they were no match for America in terms of resources or manpower.